Hi, my name is Caroline Chang, and I am host and producer of this new series I started about 2 years ago called Truth is Truth. Since 2020, my focus is on the truth, and I keep it simple. Today, I have Twila Brase. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She is from the Citizens Council for Health Freedom. And I saw her on Jimmy Dore's show and invited her to be my guest today. Please explain to the audience who you are and what you do.
Oh, happy to do that. Thank you for having me. Citizens Council for Health Freedom has a mission to protect patient and doctor freedom. And we have been around since mid 1998. So we're nearly 30 years old. I am a registered nurse by training, pediatric emergency room, and then I was school nursing, and then I helped to co-found this organization or the precursor of this organization, and then this one followed it.
Right.
So I've been doing this for about 32 years. And so our organization really is about protecting patient and doctor freedom. And the way that we do that is to just look at how to keep the patient and the doctor being able to work together in freedom for the benefit of the patient without outside interference, affordably, confidentially, and centered on the patient, and ethically, of course, as well. And so we work at the state level, we work at the national level, we propose policies, we testify. I've written a book, Big Brother in the Exam Room, The Dangerous Truth About Electronic Health Records. We are known for what we do on privacy because we say he who holds the data makes the rules.
Hmm.
HIPAA does not protect your privacy. And so these are just some of the things that we do. Medicare as well, trying to get people to protect themselves within the Medicare program and eventually to have an option to not be in Medicare as it moves toward insolvency and therefore more toward rationing.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now, when I saw you on Jimmy Dore, you were talking about real IDs, but you also mentioned vaccines. And what I'm on a mission, I'm a mom, and you said 1998, which is a very significant year for me because that was the year that my daughter was mandated to get all of her childhood boosters. My daughter was born in 1980. And when she was born, I was 19 years old, and I lived by inner guidance. I did take her the first year of her life to so we're talking about 1980, before the 1986 Act. So I took her to get the recommended shot, baby vaccines in 1980, which if we look at those shots compared to today, it's a world of difference. But that's all she got. After she turned 1 year old, my inner guidance said she doesn't need any more. Okay. I enrolled her into kindergarten. Nobody ever asked. This is like 1995, still before the 1986 Act. Nobody asked. And I was like, it was like for me, ask, don't tell, you know? So, and I did that with both my children. Both my children were my son was born in 84. My daughter was born in 1980. Both my children went through K through 12, no booster shots. Now, my daughter being the oldest, she applied to go to college in 1997. And she went to, she graduated in 98, but she started applying in 97. And then the red flags came up. No booster shots. Now she's 17 years old. She's gone through childhood. Okay, she's not a child anymore. I mean, I'm saying all this in hindsight, meaning I didn't think these thoughts back then, which I wish I had. And I live in the state of Pennsylvania, where there is medical exemption, where there is religious exemption, and philosophical exemption in the state that I live in. Do you think anybody told me in 98 that, well, she doesn't have her boosters, but if you don't want them, she can apply for an exemption? Do you think anybody told me that? Obviously not. So they gave my daughter, so whatever the boosters were in 98, which was nothing like what they would have been in 85 when she was 5, when she would have gotten them. That, since the 1986 Act, they double, triple, quadruple these shots. So they gave her all these shots at once in 1998. And shortly after, within 18 months, she was diagnosed with MS. And her MS got so bad that she couldn't even finish her degree. And she got all these shots to attend college, and she couldn't even finish her degree. And I'm just learning in 2020. I'm just learning in 2020 when I am doing my own homework about vaccines. And I did that because I knew with all this COVID stuff, they're going to try to mandate a vaccine. And I'm like, why? That's when I started doing my homework on vaccines. And that's when I learned that one of the side effects, known side effects of the MMR booster is MS. And then I put two and two together. This is how my daughter got MS, was from these vaccines that they mandated for her to go to school. So me as a mother, who daughter really destroyed her life and took her life, because she passed in December of 2022 at the age of 42. I'm on a mission to put an end to vaccine mandates in this country. I was so glad to hear the governor and the Surgeon General of Florida in September announce that that's what they want to do. Because I went, yes. So not just in Florida, every single state. Vaccines should be a free will choice. People should have all the information, which they don't. Parents are not given any information. And they just go into that doctor's office thinking, oh, they're safe in the there's nowhere it says that vaccines are safe and effective. So I'm organizing 2 class action lawsuits with families. Right now, I have a little over 400 families that are with me, on board with me. And it's 2 points. I'm not talking about science. I'm not talking about medical evidence, none of that. What I'm talking about is the simple law. In the 1986 Act, it pretty much states all vaccines are unsafe. Not in those words. It talks about unavoidable adverse events, I think, is the wording in the 1986 Act. In the Supreme Court ruling from 2011, which was a family from Pennsylvania, the state I live in that ruling, it states all vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. Why is that word unavoidably there? Because if you say no, then it's avoidable. Okay? If you know all the facts, you say no, then the risk is avoidable. So my whole thing bases on that why are all 50 states mandating a product that the United States government itself declares unsafe? Okay, in 2 legal documents. That is what the official declaration on vaccines are for this government. And why are they giving liability protection illegally according to their own law? I'm using their law against them. The 1986 Act lists a lot of stipulations and safety provisions for our children because the 1986 Act was supposed to be a safety for our children. But they flipped it all around. There's every one of those things that Big Pharma was supposed to do to earn liability protection, they have not done one. So for close to 40 years, the United States government has been granting liability protection illegally to Big Pharma. So, and I don't hear anybody saying, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a mom who lost her child because of vaccine mandates. And I am on a mission to put an end to vaccine mandate. Let it be a free will choice, but also you're supposed to inform the parents, fully inform the parents before you administer a vaccine to a child. So that is Okay. So that I know I said a mouthful. So what are your thoughts? Since I think you're just hearing this for the first time.
Well, as I told you before the program began, when I had some idea of the fact that you were going to file some lawsuits, I said that, from the perspective of our organization, we want freedom for the patient and the doctor to work together, which obviously means that the patient should not be forced into taking anything or doing anything, right, against their will. So, choice is all part of freedom. That is freedom, freedom
Exactly.
of choice. And but as I also told you that, we have done a little work on vaccines, and you probably have more information about the details of the laws and the bills and the regulations than I do. And so there are other qualified vaccine experts, freedom of choice and vaccine experts. But I will say that the law that gave that protection of liability to the pharmaceutical companies. Even though I have not read it, it's very clear that if you have a law that gives liability protection, the only reason you give liability protection is because there is some form of danger. And so if you are correct about what you said regarding safe and effective, that there are laws that claim that they're not safe and effective. And as you said, side or adverse events, right? And adverse events mean that they are harm, but it may not be, it could be small harm, right? It could just be a fever, right? But it could also be, seizures for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And so just by virtue of the fact of having any kind of liability protection, the Congress already admitted that there were some dangers. Whatever the stipulations were or are to get those liability protections is another thing. And again, I'm not a vaccine expert, but clearly, want the patient and the doctor to be able to work together without the patient being coerced into anything, whether it could harm them or help them.
Mhm.
This has to be a safe place. The doctor's office, the hospital has to be a safe place. And as a country, when we have moved, one of the things that we say from our organization's perspective is that the mission of medicine has been taken over by the business of healthcare. But in what you're saying with the mandates, that's not just the business of healthcare there, although it can be and sort of is when it comes to the corporations who have to prove, or the hospitals or the clinics or the doctors who have to prove that a certain percentage of their clientele are vaccinated, and then they will get benefits or extra money or bonuses or whatever, right? It's
Like
part of the, it's
AAP.
called it's
Yeah.
part of it's part of the quality matrix or metrics that are required. And a lot of people don't understand why the push for vaccination in the exam room is there. But
Right.
that is why, because there are metrics, there are government metrics, there are health plan metrics, there might be healthcare system metrics. And so the push is on the clinic, to make sure that everybody is vaccinated.
Yes.
So, um, vaccination is just one part of this. In COVID, we saw a completely different part of it, right?
Right.
Where there were certain types of procedures that got more government money. If you had a COVID patient, so you could just call everybody a COVID patient, or you could keep testing them until they finally became a COVID patient,
You're right.
right? And so there was more money in that. There was more money if you put them on a ventilator. There was more money if you gave them remdesivir, even though both of those things killed people during
Yes.
COVID. And so, those are the things that's all about freedom of choice, not just about vaccination, but about so many other things that happen in the exam room.
Exactly. Especially like I said, it was 2020 that woke me up to this. Okay.
Mhm.
I had no clue until 2020. And that's when I did my own deep dive. And what I found shocked me. Now, two attorneys have said, I'm not an attorney, I am not a doctor. Two attorneys have told me I know more about the 1986 Act than they do. Okay, two of them.
Mhm.
Okay, so and everything I shared with you, I have shared with multiple health freedom organizations. No one has said, Caroline, you're wrong. I am 100% right, and I lay it out very simple, and that's why I want to give this message to every man, woman, and child in this country. Okay, the law, first of all, they are breaking their own law. Okay, and then and it's the whole concept of getting paid you make money the more you vaccinate. The AAP that's what the AAP is all about. All these, they say 72, but if you really add them all up, they're over 100 vaccines that they recommend. You know how many vaccines I had I'm 64 years old. I just turned 64 in January. I've had one vaccine my entire life, and that's the one that makes that mark. I think um, not polio. I think it was smallpox, I think. And I
Mm.
had that in the mid 60s in school because my parents never took me to a doctor. Never even heard of a well baby check in the 60s. Both my parents were in the medical field. My father was a dentist and my mother was a supervisor of a hospital lab. They never took me to a doctor. Okay. And the only vaccine I got was in school in the 60s. I'm healthier than many people half my age. Okay, because I live a healthy, holistic, and I don't do doctors. It's weird that 1998 is that year I stopped going to doctors. It was the year that they harmed my daughter, but I didn't know it at the time. But
Mm.
again, like I said, I live by inner guidance. That's all I can explain to people. My inner guidance said no, don't go. So I live organically. I eat organic food. I exercise daily. I live a holistic lifestyle that I stay away from doctors. But I understand what you're saying. But I guess for me, I feel like because I'm not politically correct, like health freedom should not be in the political realm at all. It's a freedom. It's, what you put in your body, what you put in your child's body is all about freedom. And people, when they're fully informed, they'll make the choice that is best for them and their family.
Mhm.
But the other thing, like I said, when I saw you, you were talking about real IDs. And I was like, no, I know exactly what they want to do with those real IDs. So why don't you share some of the stuff that you were sharing on the Jimmy Dore show about the real ID?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't understand what the real ID is, and a lot of people don't know that they have one in their pocket.
Yes.
And when they pull out their driver's license or their identification card and they see a star on it, they think, oh, well, that's just my driver's license with a star. Or they might think that's my driver's license and it's just an extra security feature, because they may have been told that real IDs have more security against terrorists or against illegals coming into the country, that sort of thing, right? So they think really nothing more of it. But the fact of the matter is that the real ID is a federal identification card
Hmm.
masquerading as a state driver's license.
True.
It is under federal control. And the DMVs, the organization for DMVs, which is called AMVA, the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators,
Okay.
AMVA testified in December 2023 to Congress that their plans are to digitize it, put it on our phones, and have remote access to it.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people look at digital IDs and they think, well, that's very convenient. Let me just get a digital ID. And they don't know that every time they pull it out and use it, it pings a government database. And so that's another thing to know about the Real ID is the plan to digitize it, put it on our phones, and have remote access to it. But another thing is that it's mandated to be a biometric. So they have to have a biometric starting with the face.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so by virtue of that fact, and by virtue of the fact that the U.S. Department of Health and U.S. Department of Homeland Security wants everybody to have the real ID, have told everybody that they need the real ID to fly.
Yes.
You know, then
Not
if they're
true.
trying to force everybody into the real ID and a biometric digital photo is required to have a real ID, what you have to see there is that they're using the real ID to build a national facial recognition system in this country.
Right.
Um, and then probably another really important thing that people do not know is what the law says. So if I'm talking to people, some people will say, well, I need a real ID because I need to fly. Okay, well, that is not true. And as a matter of fact, the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, has
Mhm.
on their website the 17 different options you have, identification options you have to fly.
Right.
And so even though Homeland Security continues to say you have to have real ID in order to fly, um, they know that that's not true. You can have a passport card, a VA medical card. There's a variety of
Military,
Yep,
military.
military card. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep. So
Mhm.
that all of that will get you on the plane without being a real ID.
Right.
Um, and then the other thing is what the law actually says.
Hmm.
So the whole focus of real ID conversation has been about flying. But
Yes.
what does the real ID, the federal law
Hmm.
that was passed in 2005, what does that actually say? It says that the official purpose of the real ID is for use to access certain federal facilities, access nuclear facilities, access commercial flight, and for any other purposes that the secretary shall determine.
Right.
It is wide open. And you'll notice there that the only person who needs to be the one making that determination is an unelected bureaucrat called the Secretary of Homeland Defense. So, whatever you might think about this administration, President Trump, and whatever you might think about the next administration, whether it was Gavin Newsom, AOC, or another Republican, right? Whatever it is, it's not the president who's going to decide. It's not even Congress who's going to decide. It's the person who the president puts in as the Secretary of Homeland Security and whatever they decide.
Right.
And so, where could this lead?
Mhm.
It could lead to a real ID is required to access medical care. That's one of the reasons why we, as a health policy organization, are in this. Well, we're not in this battle, we're leading this battle.
Right.
So, because we believe it will lead to no card, no care.
Right.
And then we believe that this is the way that for all the people who are choosing not to have a real ID, that they would actually convince everybody to submit because
Mhm.
not everybody needs to fly.
Right.
And but everybody needs a doctor. And
Mm.
there's no other way to see a doctor. There's no non-doctor that you could use for a doctor.
Hmm.
So, so anyway, but they could also say you can't have it. You can't open a bank account without it. You can't rent a hotel. You can't go to college. You can't go to work. And as a matter of fact, the go to work one,
Hmm.
we saw that in England.
Okay.
So at the end of
Yes, you're right.
2025,
Mhm.
remember that?
Yes, I do.
At
I
the
remember
end
that.
of 2025, Starmer was
Mhm.
telling people if you don't have a digital ID, you
Right.
will not be able to work. And
Exactly.
there were protests in the streets.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
nobody is protesting the real ID because nobody's been told what it is.
Right.
Everybody's been told this has only to do with flight. They
Mm.
say it has to do with illegals and keeping illegals out of the country. They say that this will prove citizenship for voting. Well, here's what I have to tell you about that.
Right.
There's a whole list at Homeland Security of the people who are non-citizens who
Hmm.
can get a real ID. And
Mm.
then we have the case of New York that gave a real ID to an illegal and didn't even have I don't know if it was a first name or second name, but it said name withheld. That's what the state of New York wrote on the real ID for one of the names, name withheld. This was a truck driver who the police found and found with this kind of a license. And that is why the Homeland Security in December for a court case
Okay.
gave some paperwork to the court that said that real ID is not sufficient proof for citizenship.
Right.
It's
Of
not
course.
sufficient proof. So it's
Hmm.
not sufficient proof for voting. And so what do we have? What do we have happening here? What
Right.
we have here is a federally controlled card,
Right.
and we have nationalization of identification, totally against states' rights, individual rights under the 10th Amendment. We
Yeah.
have it moving to being digitized, which means accessible all over and pinging the government every time you use it. We have a
Hmm.
requirement of biometrics, and that means your body parts. So they have claimed a right to collect the coordinates of your body for their control. And then they have the ability to expand this to every aspect of your life that you can imagine. And
Hmm.
so all you have to do, think, what were the pictures that you saw from China during COVID?
Yes.
What was happening?
Yes.
They were being controlled
Yes.
by their phone,
Mm.
because it was biometrics, it was digital, it was pinging the government every time. And there are some candidates probably for president who would be more than happy to have us in 15-minute cities that we could never leave, or we would be charged,
Maybe
carbon
Newsom.
taxes, right?
Just yes.
What?
I said
Right?
maybe Newsom. You had mentioned Gavin.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, the thing is that you don't even know who's going to get in power, but what you do know is that the Department of Homeland Security, whoever that unelected bureaucrat is, could
Right.
decide
Right.
what new required uses and therefore restricted parts of your life
Yes.
with the real ID being control over.
Yes, I agree with you 1,000%. Now that I feel I was slow to the table with the vaccine because I didn't wake up to the vaccine dangers until 2020. So I feel I was slow to the table. But real ID, I was like, no way, not breathing, not me. Thankfully, I live in a state, and I know from what I understand, is four states that no longer have state IDs. I know Florida being one, which Florida is quote unquote supposed to be the freedom state. What are you talking about? But Florida being one, not sure of the other three, but I heard there was four states that don't. I live in Pennsylvania, thank God. I just renewed my driver's license and it says not for real ID purposes. It's a PA license. I will never, ever, ever, ever. They can't hold a gun to my head to get a real ID because I know exactly. So, okay, when we were talking about vaccines, here's what they're going to do. Oh, we want you to get a vaccine every 6 months. If you don't, you can't go access your bank account. You can't access groceries. We're going to control you with this real ID. That's exactly what they want to do. Yeah.
Well, and I would say that when you think about the future and you even look at what happened during COVID, right? They wanted vaccine passports. Like you
Right.
couldn't go grocery shopping if you didn't have your
Right.
vaccination. You couldn't go into the theater. There were all sorts of plans to do these kind of things.
Things, exactly.
And so this could easily become a vaccine passport, which
Yes.
would control your life at any time that they wanted you to get a vaccine. It
Yes.
could be the number that is used to pull all of your medical records
Mhm.
together and all the information that you've ever confidently told a doctor and
Yes.
that has been put into a medical record. It could also be used to attach to a global identification system, right?
Hmm.
We don't have any idea. And
Right.
I will say that the director of Homeland Security, I think that was the secretary,
Okay.
I forget director, but whatever, I know his name, Robert
Mhm.
Mockney.
Okay.
Robert Mockney in 2007, who was the head of Homeland Security at the time, in a presentation, he said something like this. So I'm paraphrasing,
Okay.
but it was something like, gradually we are biometrifying a significant portion of the world's population. Now, mind you, this paraphrase quote is coming from a US government official,
Yeah.
and he's saying, we, we are biometrifying. And
Right.
he's talking not only about the United States, but he's talking about the world.
Yes.
So it's very clear to me that the Department of Homeland Security, at least in 2007, when he
Right.
was there, was really working in concert with other global entities, global agencies, hard to say,
Yes.
to move towards biometrification, which means to take your face and just so you know, a digital facial photo for police purposes and others
Right.
is they need 50 points.
Okay.
And those are digital data points. So it's not like they just take a picture and go, no, no, no. In a digital picture, it crystallizes on certain. So at the airport, when they say move your hair back, right? They're getting the points. They're
Mhm.
making sure that the points are clear. By the way, you should never agree to that photograph. And it
I'm
says
right.
you can opt out. So,
I'm raising my hand because this is me in the airport. When okay, I have my I've always flown with my passport. Even I fly domestically mostly, but it's just easier to put my boarding pass because I do a printed boarding pass. I don't use my phone. So it's easier for me to put my printed boarding pass in my passport and hand that to the person at the counter. I hand that to them. They say, can you look in the scanner? I say, no, thank you, and keep moving. They say nothing. They're like, okay, this person is away. Then I get to the body scanner, the cancer scanner. I'm like, no, I am not going through that cancer scanner. You're gonna have to get a female to pat me down. And this is me in the airport. Okay, never will have a real ID. Never will I let them scan my retina eye in my eyes, and never let them have me go through a cancer machine. This is me in the airport.
so So I'll say a few more things about that. I'm going to just add that the biometrics, as you said, it's not only your face, it can be your thumb, it can be your palm, it can be your fingers, it can be your iris, it can be your gait, how you walk,
Hmm.
and it can also be your DNA.
Okay.
And I may have missed some things here, but you know what we're really talking about is unique body parts because all of your body parts are completely unique to you, and a lot of hackers would like to get into your biometrics, and it's very hard for you if they do. It's very hard for you to change your face,
Mm.
your
Right.
iris, right? But you know you really can't
Right.
unless you have plastic surgery.
Right.
So so anyway, so those are the biometrics. But when you're talking about going to the airport, well,
Mhm.
I completely concur. So I want to tell people who are listening to this, I want to tell a few things about the airport. So the airport has become a battle zone. And if you're going to go to battle, be prepared to go to battle.
Right.
And you don't have to go to battle as a mad person. You can
No,
go
no,
as
no.
just a firm speaking person. And so look around. Look at the signs around that will tell you what your rights are. So there's, except, I was in Fort Myers, and I saw not one sign in Fort Myers that said you can opt out of the camera. Now, it might be there somewhere, but
Okay.
in my line, I
Right.
didn't see it. It wasn't with the camera. It wasn't on the signs as you walk up to the
Hmm.
TSA checkpoint, but
Right.
usually it is. So
Hmm.
and I have lots of pictures that I have taken of all these different signs.
Right.
And so look at the signs and so in your mind, yep, I can opt out, but the
Hmm.
fact of the matter is, you can. You don't see one single sign, you can still opt out.
Always.
Okay, but if you want it just verified, look for those signs. And then oftentimes there's a tiny, tiny little sign by the camera which says if you want to opt out, you can, right?
Okay.
But like I said, in Fort Myers, there wasn't even that tiny sign.
Okay.
Anyway, an important thing to do is the first thing you should do is not hand them your passport, not hand them your passport card. I use a passport card. Not
Okay.
hand them your identification of any sort. You
Hmm.
just look them in the eye, you come up to them, and they're trying to get you to go over to that camera, right? They're trying to put it out their
Right.
hand,
Yeah.
they want you, and you just say, I'm opting out of the camera. The first thing that you say.
Okay.
Because if you hand them your card and they put your card in, some of them will claim that you can no longer opt out.
Really?
And this is why in the Washington, D.C. National Airport, there's a sign about this big. It looks like on the bottom, I think maybe it looks like a stop sign. And
Okay.
on the top, it says, if you're going to say you're going to opt out before you hand us your card.
I didn't know that.
Because U.S. Senator Merkley in Oregon, they would not let him use that airport because he handed his card first and they refused to let him go in without taking a photo. And he is the author of the Travelers Privacy Protection Act in the U.S. Senate to try
Okay.
and stop the cameras. He got so perturbed that in Washington, D.C. airport, there are these big signs. And so they're telling everybody, tell us first that you're going to opt out before you hand the card. But everybody should do that because I've experienced that in Minnesota where they said,
Okay.
now you have to. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to. You
Right.
have to. I said, nope, I got it
I
right
just
to
said,
opt out.
the guy said to me, look in the camera, and I was like, no, thank you. And I kept on walking. He didn't say anything. So obviously he's like, well, I'm thinking he's thinking, well, she knows her rights, and I do know my rights. But I didn't know about because I think I usually do hand them the card because I mean, hand them my passport and my boarding pass. And then they ask me to look in the camera, and I always say no, thank you. And I just, so in the few airports, I don't travel a lot. In the few airports I've been in, that has not been a problem. But now, believe me, I'm going to take that to heart. And next time I'm in the airport, I'll be sure to say that first before I even hand them my ID. Yeah,
Well, but because you have a passport, so you're using the passport book. You're not
yeah,
using the passport card because
right.
they cannot put the book in like that. So
Okay.
that you have probably been saved by the fact that they don't put the book through the scanner, right?
No,
No, right? And so you've been saved that claim that you had to look in the camera now because it's the fact that they put it into the machine, and then because they put it into the machine, something pops up, and then if you're refusing to look, then they have to shut that down. They might have to reboot the machine, or as they've done with me, is they just walk over two machines away and have
no.
me do it there because they just want to take the time of shutting down the machine, getting the whole thing rebooted, and
Right.
yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
now I'll
Yeah.
just do it the way you just instructed. I will tell them first before I give them anything. You're not scanning my eyes, okay? Here's my boarding pass. Okay.
The other thing people should realize is they will say, and they will tease you, or they will teasing is not quite the word. They will make fun of you.
That's
They'll say,
okay.
well, you see all those cameras around here? Your picture's being taken all the time. Well, then you don't even need me, right?
But then you
But
don't need
but
it,
then you
right?
don't then you don't need it, right? So they're kind of mocking you because they want you to comply, and you just got to be nice. So if you're going to say something snarky, just don't say anything at all. If you want to say something, well, clearly then you don't need it. So,
Right.
and just
Right.
smile at them.
I
But what you need to understand, and
mhm.
it's not clear to me,
Okay.
is the possibility. So if you're in the back, you've gone through, and now you look back and you see what pops up for the next person who comes, and you can see their ID over here, and you can see their face, and maybe from their chest up.
Mm-hmm.
Here you can see that. But what they'll say is the picture is immediately deleted.
Mm.
Well, maybe. And
Yeah.
let's just say that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But are the 50 data points
Delete.
deleted?
Right.
I have no idea. Are
Right.
they training their computer systems to see you with your glasses on, with a hat on, with a scarf on, with a longer beard, a shorter beard, earrings, whatever, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
no need to help train the national facial recognition system that they are building here.
Ex-
That's a reason to get out of the Real ID, and that's a reason to never stand in front of that camera.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Now, here's me all through COVID. Never did I put on a mask, not once. And like you said, for me, I surround myself in a bubble of unconditional love. I never put on a mask. I made a badge that I would wear that says for health reasons, not for medical reasons, because I don't do medical. I don't do big pharma or Western medicine. I said, for health reasons, I cannot wear a mask. And that's what I wore, a badge about this big around my neck whenever I went out. And nobody ever asked me because, first of all, I was like, oh, we can't ask her what. And I got so much when I was in the store, I'm short. And I'm always everything I always want is on the top shelf. And people would like run over with mask on there. Oh, can I help you? Can I help you? So they're not even afraid of me. They're just like, oh, and I got nothing but love. I had no problem. I see all these videos where people got, cursed out and whatnot for not wearing a mask because I surround myself with a bubble of unconditional love. All I got back was love. And all I own my sovereignty. I am a sovereign divine being of light, and I do not comply with any of the nonsense. And so if I can do that, anybody can do that.
Well, I should say a few other things about this so that people know where to go.
Yes.
And I should answer the one question. As you know, I've got probably about
Right.
12, 13 minutes left here.
Right.
And so people can find more information at our special website called refuserealid.org,
Okay.
refuserealid.org.
Okay.
We also give people, there are two maps. We give people the opportunity, we encourage them to make the switch back to a state driver's license and away from the federal Real ID.
But what about those four states?
Okay, and there's 5 states.
Oh, there's five.
Um, yeah, but you were right about Florida. So it's Florida, Texas, Georgia, Wyoming, and Mississippi. And then in addition to that, we have discovered that the states of, let me think, Indiana, Maryland, and Utah, I believe, make it very difficult or impossible to switch, even though they don't have laws. The 5 states that I mentioned, according to the Department of Homeland Security, they don't allow it, by law. You can't have a regular state driver's license, and anybody in those states should start talking to their legislators because they realize that this is digital biometric controlled system that could be used for very totalitarian purposes.
It
It
could
does,
be.
it doesn't have to be,
Right.
but how it's set up means that it can be.
Yes.
And clearly there's a lot of power going on here because the Secretary of Homeland Security didn't bother to tell anybody that there were other options to fly and just kept focusing on the Real ID. And so just go to refuserealid.org. There are two maps. One
Mm-hmm.
of the maps is for people, well, you just answer the questions and then you will appear on the map, not you, but just a statistic, you know.
Right.
So if you made the switch out of Real ID back into a state driver's license,
Mm-hmm.
just give us that information and the tally for each state shows up on the green map because you were successful.
Okay.
If you tried and you
Mm-hmm.
were unsuccessful, um, it shows up on the red map. And the interesting thing about this, if you compare the two maps, is
Mm-hmm.
that there are people having success
Mm-hmm.
in states where some people are not having success.
That's
And
interesting.
that means that there's not a state law that allows you not to make the switch. It probably means that there's a rogue
Mm-hmm.
DMV agent or a rogue DMV agency who has said, nope, we are just not letting you do it, right?
Mm.
Because they want to go to one standard. They don't want to have the two standards anymore. But our
Right.
organization has helped with legislation for
Mm-hmm.
states like, let's see, we testified in Tennessee, we helped with Arizona, and we testified in Maine. So helping to write for state legislators to write legislation that gives you the right to always have a state ID so
I
you
see.
couldn't have it taken away from you, or the right to not have a biometric photo, to have just a regular non-biometric photo. I mean, there are different things that they are putting in bills to not have your data shared among the states there's a database called the SPECS,
Mm-hmm.
State Pointer Exchange System,
Right.
SPECS.
Mm-hmm.
It's located in Mississippi, and all the DMVs send your data to here to find out if you have a license anywhere else. And
Mm-hmm.
so some of the states are saying, nope, we're not going to let our data go to this national pointer system. We're going to keep all of our data and we're not going to let anybody else see the data in our state. So there's a variety of different state legislation that's coming out as a result of realizing what the Real ID is. There
Right.
is also a bill in Congress authored by Senator Rand Paul from
I've heard of
Kentucky.
that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of the number of that. It might be 2769, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Safeguarding Personal Information Act. But it really, what it does is it repeals the Real ID Act at the congressional level. And he needs all the encouragement possible
Mm-hmm.
to hold a hearing on his bill. And
Right.
so everyone who hears this, if you can just make
Yes.
a call to Senator Rand Paul's office. Really
Mm-hmm.
easy. You just put in Rand Paul, Google
Right.
Rand Paul, and
Right.
the office
Right.
number will pop up in DC or in Kentucky,
Right.
and
Mhm.
just leave a message. Thank you so much for your bill. Will you please hold a hearing?
Yes, 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 very true. I have heard of that bill, and that is so good. And I think people are slowly, slowly waking up to what real ID can turn into. Okay, so
Yeah.
think it is getting out there, which is very good. I'm surprised you said Texas because I always think of the two freedom states of Florida and Texas, and they both I'm like, come on,
A
Florida.
long time ago. A long
Yes,
time ago. Texas was 2010 and Florida, I'm not positively sure, but the push came after the rule came out in
yeah.
2008. There were 14 states or 13 states that actually passed legislation saying to the federal government, we will not comply.
I
This is
think
against our
Pennsylvania
10th
might have been
Amendment.
one.
Yes, I do. And the Pennsylvania legislators in 2017, in Trump's first term,
Hmm.
when Obama in late 2015 claimed that you wouldn't be able to fly in 2016 without a real ID,
Hmm.
in 2017, I think it was 116 state GOP legislators wrote Trump a letter
Hmm.
and said this is a usurpation of states' rights. This is a violation of privacy. This is an unfunded, expensive mandate. And they asked Trump to stop. I would just bet that Trump never saw that letter.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm so glad I live in a state that allows for philosophical, because I think there's only 16 states that allow for philosophical exemption to vaccine
Mm.
mandates. And that philosophical just means I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so I love that I live in this state since 91. It's when I bought my house here. And so far, Pennsylvania is making me proud. Very true. Yeah, it is so important what you're doing. And I believe, honestly, if you can also, like, I want those links that you were saying for your website, I want to actually have them not only in the description of this video, but I'll have them across the bottom of the video
Mm.
so people can. But if you can also, I'll send you the information right now. Like I said, the class action lawsuit hasn't come into court yet. It's basically me organizing these families. And right now I have over 400 vaccine injured families that are totally on board with and here's the thing. I truly believe the court system is completely corrupt. I mean, this is me. I'm being honest. So the actions that I'm organizing is not looking to win in court because money cannot bring my daughter back. Money cannot take away these vaccine injuries. What these class action lawsuits for me is to awaken the world or the United States to awaken the country to the law that the government itself is breaking. And I kind of feel like I'm not getting the support, not saying from you, but I'm not getting the support from the entire health freedom movement because I'm not politically correct. Because I'm not political at all. I did not vote in the last two elections in 2020 or 2024. I will never vote again because to me, I see corruption on both sides. And to me, the whole political landscape is just to keep us divided. Divide and conquer. That is what I see. So I'm not about politics. I'm about health freedom, true health freedom, because of what it did to my daughter. And while long as I'm breathing, my goal is to see an end to all vaccine mandates in this country. So if you could, I'll send you whatever information, but if you could help share that, just get the word out about the law because I'm the only one talking about the law. Everybody's talking about, they're not tested, which they're not, and the science and medical evidence. Everybody's talking about that, and you can debate about that all day long. But you can't debate about the simple law.
Mm. You
Yeah.
might be surprised.
Well, thus far, I've been doing this since September, and thus far, no one, like I said, one attorney, because I've contacted a lot of attorneys, one attorney tried to challenge it, then he came back and had to apologize. Two attorneys told me that I know more about the 1986 Act than they do.
My point is, as you know, laws are brought up to the Supreme Court with people on both sides saying, what does that actually mean? So everything can be challenged. That was my only
Right.
point.
I understand in the court. So that's why my mission is not for the court. I mean, I'm taking it to court to put a spotlight on it. Because really for me, it's just everyone knowing those two simple facts about the law. If they knew that, if every parent in this country knew that, it's like, wait a second, they're saying all vaccines are unsafe. They are saying it. These are their words. They are saying, okay, Big Pharma has to do this, and this, and this before they can earn liability protection. But Big Pharma never did this, and this to earn it. So what? You're just giving them liability protection illegally according to your own law. I am using their own words against them, and nobody else is doing that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Before I
Yes.
have to go here, I suppose
Yes.
I should give our website, which
Yes,
is
please. And
so
I'll have that next.
I've already given the Refuse Real ID .org website, which is a special website that we created.
Yes.
But particularly for all of our health freedom work to stop socialized medicine, to give you freedom from Medicare, our Medicare how-to guide, our
Mm,
COVID guide, all of those kind of resources are all at cchfreedom.org.
yes.
cchfreedom.org.
Org. Wonderful. Wonderful. I would like to say, I will edit into the video the link and then have it in the description so people could.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. I know you have
Welcome. Thank
another
you.
appointment and I appreciate all your wisdom. All your wisdom. Thank you
Well,
so
very
much.
nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Bye bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.